Brown University Common App essays. Let's talk about them. The first of our 7 questions is a why major question. For this question, we have to focus on 2 components. The first is based off of you and your interest in that major. The second is how you are going to pursue that major at Brown. When discussing the first component, we can think about any experiences you've had academically, extracurricularly, or professionally. So what that means is that maybe you're interested in chemistry as a field because you've explored it academically at your high school, but also think about how you've done so outside of the classroom, such as by volunteering in a research lab. Whatever your experience in the subject of your interest, make sure that you provide as much detail as possible. Then, when talking about the Brown component of that, think about the courses and the professors within that respective concentration of your interest. Remember, one really awesome opportunity to explore at Brown is the ability to create your own concentration. For instance, if you're interested in both the French language and film studies, you could prospectively design your own concentration as a French film major. Or you could merge an interest in public health and sociology to form a health systems major. Whatever the case may be, do some exploration into the various concentrations that Brown offers and consider whether or not design your own concentration is right for you. This next one is an identity essay. This means that you could talk about one or multiple aspects of your identity, such as your race, your gender, your nationality, your socioeconomic status, among other things. The key is that you can elaborate. You want to really share how this aspect of your identity may have caused an issue or challenge to arise in your life elsewhere. For instance, maybe due to socioeconomic status, it was very difficult for you to pursue certain educational opportunities. Whenever you're telling a story like this with a challenge, make sure you build up the stakes and emphasize why it's so important for you to surmount this challenge. In addition to talking about how you've overcome the challenge associated with your identity, you can connect it back to Brown. Brown has many student organizations and affinity groups you could check out on their website. Make sure to elaborate on how you are the right person to contribute to such an organization at Brown. I love this next one. Question 3, what brings you joy? Being that it's an open-ended question, it's very easy to recycle this from a previously written question, but I'd encourage you to think a little bit outside of the box here. I remember that when I applied to Brown, one of the things that I really focused on was my desire to be a writer, why creative writing was my passion, and so on. You could share a little bit about an interesting hobby that may be memorable for the admissions committee. In the past, I've worked with students who've had really exciting hobbies, such as somebody who was really interested in using recycling to generate new pieces of artwork and even wearable fashion, and someone else who was really passionate about learning languages and even took this to the extreme of learning how to sing in those languages. That kind of fun, unique hobby is what you want to write about in this case. Number 4, we can only choose 3 words here. The key is that you want to go beyond commonly used words. Instead of saying creative, for instance, you could say innovative. You also want to make sure that you go beyond the other aspects of your application. Don't tell them things that they already know. Writing intelligent is not going to say a whole lot because you're applying to Brown after all. Everybody who's doing that is likely to going to be pretty intelligent, right? In such cases, show something a little bit more outside of the box, like trailblazing. And also, you don't have to confine yourself to adjectives. You can use nouns. Instead of saying kind, you could describe yourself as a caretaker. If you're struggling to come up with some words, I would encourage you to talk to close friends or family to see how they would describe you. After all, ideally, you can submit an essay here that's going to be perfectly describing you and no one else. All right, number 5, meaningful extracurricular opportunity. For this one, you could look at your Common App activity list and think about which ones have been more important to you. Ideally, you're going to choose an example here in which you have a leadership position. For instance, maybe you're president of your school's National Honor Society, or perhaps you started the recycling club at school. The key is, since you have 100 words for this essay, you can go into much more detail than the 150 characters provided on the Common App activity list. For instance, rather than just detailing what you've done, talk about the relationships you've built and why they're meaningful to you. Number 6, here we are in the theme of teaching a course. Ideally, this could be something beyond just what you do for fun. Maybe it's a passion. It can be academic, but it doesn't have to be. More than anything, it should showcase your personality. For instance, if I wrote my academic interest essay on the topic of literature or English, I can get really specific here. I can say I want to teach a class on the importance of journaling and how it can make you a better writer. Remember, it doesn't have to be academic, but it definitely should be fun. If it's something that interests you, you can even talk about something like how to cook dishes that incorporate peanut butter. Ultimately, whatever the case may be, make sure you showcase your personality. And finally, we come to why Brown. Brown has a lot of awesome opportunities that make it unique among top programs in the United States. For instance, we have our open curriculum where you can take courses of your interest. You don't have to worry about satisfying core requirements. In my case, that gave me the opportunity to explore two completely unrelated areas in neuroscience and Chinese. Another thing, as mentioned earlier, is Brown gives you the opportunity to design your own concentration if you're interested. Brown also allows students to take courses pass-fail rather than focusing on strict ABC grading if there's an area that they're passionate in, but they don't want to worry so much about grading relative to the opportunity to learn something new. Maybe the chance to take classes at the famed Rhode Island School of Design is something that interests you. These are a few examples of the many that make Brown a unique place. Pick the ones that matter the most to you. And that's how you do these essays. Remember, there's 7 different short answer questions, so since you have a lot of content to work with, try to make sure that it's complementary and not overlapping. You do that, and you're set.